Okay, hello. So we are back in Kerbal Space Program, back at the quick save that I took when we reached orbit of the moon, to be specific. Since the last time we were here, oh shit, I have changed the mods around a little bit. I have not really changed anything major. Uh, I have installed here, since we have a quick save, I installed the real lighting mod so that you can see this engine puts a little bit of light on the bottom there when it ignites. We can see it again, hopefully, or it failed. That's also fine. How's this? Turn this on and flip the control. Jeez. There are so many of these buttons now. All right, if we stop it. If we look here, you can see this is very dark, and when I ignite the engine, you can see light comes on here. It's a little detail. I really like it, so I'm keeping it. The next thing that I added was this Kerbal Engineer Redux, and that's to replace all of these windows from MechJeb. I shouldn't really bother closing them, but basically you can see here you get this menu to tell you all of the details. And I would usually just put this like here and read what I need to read off of it instead of having all of these things from MechJeb going around. This maneuver node editor is still useful just because it's precise. RCS, would you shut the fuck up? I'm talking. Mainly the reason I prefer this is from a philosophical point of view because MechJeb is a mechanical jeb. It's supposed to be an autopilot that flies the thing for you, and I really prefer having Kerbal Engineer that just gives you information for the most part. So yeah, I've replaced that because it feels better to me. And the other thing that I have done that I have done that changes things is I have installed KOS, which is an operating system for your flight computers. So you can literally write code in Kerbal Space Program and manage your ship. For example, I could instruct the ship to lock steering to prograde. And if I then turn RCS on, you can see the vehicle is going to automatically steer itself to lock onto prograde. I can also say lock steering to heading. I don't remember the way this is set, but if I set 9090, it will change where it's trying to point to something else. I would like to fix my camera. Shit. There. It's not the most fuel efficient how it uses these thrusters, which is kind of fine. I mean, this is the default command set for this, but you can see it points us exactly where we need to go with mechanical precision, which is really nice. I have used this a lot for launch. The other thing that's nice is that I'm going to turn these off again. The other thing that's nice is that you have here the connection to Space Center that tells you whether you can control things with a probe core. And this actually sort of bypasses that. It doesn't entirely cheat it, but what it does is enable it so if you have a connection, you can send commands and they keep executing even if you leave commands, exactly like you send commands to a regular computer on a network. If you disconnect the internet, that does not stop commands you invoked from running automatically. Signal hangup accepted. I'm just going to take a picture of this because that looks nice. So, we're going to revert to save because I have been fucking around a lot. I've also installed a couple mods to make my life easier in the editor. Namely, I have figured out how to do automatic auto struts and shit like that, which I have been complaining about a lot. So happy about that. Be happy for me. How about this goes here? No, that's. I'm trying to remember, figure out where's a good place to put this that it's not like in the way of stuff. So I have been doing some thinking and planning out. Essentially, we do not have a lot of delta V left. Even if we detach the lander, it has enough delta V to land on the surface if we pump fuel from the ascent module into the descent module. But that doesn't leave us with a lot of fuel to get back and dock with this. and we don't really have enough fuel at the moment to even get home. And looking at the orbit, you can see the problem is the apogee, or the apo saloon, is very high. Uh, we go way far out past the moon here instead of being very close, so we have to spend a lot of energy when we land getting rid of all of this potential energy, which means we basically spend so much energy fighting this gravity that we can't actually land. So we need to reduce the orbit to be circular, but we do not have the fuel to both do that and land and go home by a long shot, no matter how we cut it. I mean, by which I mean we kind of do, but it involves burning the RCS thrusters for 18 hours, and I'm not fucking doing that. So, after doing some thinking, what I'm going to do is follow in the deepest traditions of Kerbal Space Program and launch a rescue mission. This rescue mission is basically just going to come up here, refuel this tank. Maybe it'll include some engine power to help this circularize, but I do need it to include this, so we'll see if I can design it to have docking ports at each end to carry both and have engines on the side. That's probably doable, but we'll see if it's like in the specs. I don't exactly have plans in depth at the moment, but the mission plan is basically going to be launch out here, dock with this, refuel it, maybe circularize its orbit, and then that'll help picket this lander up and land it. We could even do it so that it actually grabs the lander too and deposits that on a trajectory going towards the surface. That is something the Apollo missions did in the later iterations, though with this stage, the service module, because as I mentioned, it has more fuel than is necessary, which covers my incompetence. So we're going to go back to the Space Center. Now, given caveat with this whole plan right now, this isn't really intended to be a long episode. I don't have the most time available at the moment. I just kind of need a break, and I'm going to do this because I've had Kerbal Space Program on my brain. So we're going to spend, my goal for this is for the episode to be about an hour, and we're going to spend most of that hour probably getting the rescue vehicle into space. So how are we going to start? We're going to start with untitled spacecraft, strangely enough. And we're going to do a little thing to cheat. Do I have subassemblies? Yes. All right. So if I could, I also found this button so that I can scroll up past the limits of the VAB, which makes me extraordinarily happy. So if we take off these procedural fairings, we kind of have this stack, right? We have this vehicle that we launched to the moon, and we have this launcher. What I am going to do is grab the procedural, or grab the, what is this? This is the interstage ring. I would like to grab the interstage ring then. Never mind. Get rid of this. I'm going to grab the interstage ring, and I am going to drop it here to make it a subassembly. The subassembly is going to be a super heavy launch vehicle. It's named in the Indian style where it's all one acronym. Launches very heavy things to places. All right, we save that subassembly, and now what we can do is not save the craft because I haven't done anything intelligent, and now I could just grab this subassembly and attach stuff to it, if I so choose, which is great. So what we're going to do with that capability is just design a probe core, essentially, and fit everything else around it, and then we're going to stick the super heavy launch vehicle that we're already pretty sure works on the bottom of it and launch that. And I don't know if that's going to be correct, out of the box, but my hope for it is that this will save me the time of rebuilding an entire launch vehicle, because if you go back and watch the first episode of this series, yeah, we kind of spent a lot of time literally just designing a thing to put stuff on the moon, and then making it not explode and figuring out fairings. I don't want to do all of that again. So we're going to start with this probe core. We may change its settings. I'm going set it to deep space. I don't remember if I did that on the other ones, but it probably doesn't matter. And I'm going to take an Apollo docking port, which is the ones that we had on the other one. That's this guy. I'm going to put one on top. This one is definitely going to dock with the ascent stage. And seeing that I'm going to make the diameter 3 meters, I don't know if I'm going to change that further. I'm kind of fine with all the rest of this settings. I do want to set deep space. I want modern avionics if I can have it, and I would like a controllable mass that's like really big. I don't know how big. Let's say 500 tons. That does not weigh that much. I'm not really going to worry about the situation. I would like to use some small solar panels. Just to keep this like, just to make sure we don't run out of battery entirely. Let me make sure this works. Cool. Those, as always, are going to go on our I am in space group. So this is going to control it. I need to have an antenna so it can talk to stuff, but I'm not particularly worried about that. Omnidirectional antenna, we're going to put, I guess, 3 of those on there. Sure, why not? And then a scimitar antenna. This feels like something that would do the trick. There. This is very much overkill. We do not need 3 of these, but god damn it. We do not need these in symmetry, but it makes my life somewhat easier if they are not going to cause a weight imbalance. And I don't really intend to put that much stuff on here. So, there. Tiny little thing just to make sure that we have communication links with the ground. I don't think we need both of those, but I am over-designing because I don't want to really put in the work to figure out what we actually need. Vessel, these settings are going to go away. I'm using Kerbal Engineer now. This thing gives us, I want to see 5 gigajoules of electric charge, and we have solar panels. I think that's going to be fine. So that's this. Next we need, I did not plan ahead and collect how much fuel we actually had here. Huh. Didn't really look at these other service modules they had. This is the one that we actually used. This is the block 4 one. This is the block 3 one. Interesting. This one is the one that actually flew, so that's the one we launched. And it carries about 8 kiloliters of Aerozine and 8 kiloliters of Mon 1. We could just fly this. I mean, that's fine, I think. What I would like to add onto it, though, is some... Can I have a service module tank, maybe? Let's do this. I just want a couple of small tanks on here. I will make them balls. That's close enough to being balls. I'm not... Well, is there an actual... I know there's some way to make these things freaking spheres, but I don't remember. I'm not this picky about it. There's all sorts of cool shapes. I don't care. So we're going to make this. This is roughly ball-shaped. And I am going to use these to contain life support. Specifically, life support waste. Come on. I would like to use this. Oh, does this not actually need waste storage? Is that how Kerbalism works? Hang on. I don't play... This is my first time playing Kerbalism, which is the life support mod that's now the default with Realism Overhaul. I usually play with a different mod called TAC, T-A-C, life support. And TAC life support usually gives you both you need to store food and you need to store, like if I just click, oh, how do we do this thing? Real fuels, are you in here? Yeah. If I do this, it just gives me food, water, and oxygen. Usually for TAC life support, I would have to put in waste. Like you would also have the Kerbals, generate wastewater, which is here. Okay, waste and wastewater. I don't really feel the need to store this much food. I guess we can send them 2 canisters of food, but I know I over-prepared for that. What I really think that we would like to have here, now this panel's open. I swear to God it wasn't open on the actual one we flew. But while it's there, I might as well use it, I guess. Can I stick stuff in here? Yeah. All right, nifty. We're gonna stick stuff in here. I have decided. And all tanks, tank UI. I would like to split this 50-50 between wastes, food, wastes, and wastewater, if that is possible. So let's give this 100 liters of waste and 100 liters of wastewater. I don't know how much we actually need, but this sounds fine. Because if we compare this to, let's actually do this correctly now that I'm thinking about it. So if we grab the high block command module, it has 22 liters of each. So this is actually way more than we need. This is like 5 times as much as we need. Fine. We'll take 25 liters of each. And for the rest, we will stick on an... God damn it, SPS. We'll stick one of these down here. Oh, and that's what removes the panel. That is good to know for future use. I'm assuming I actually use this. And I will fill up the rest with fuel for the service propulsion system. Right, so now this is carrying even more fuel for us to use on our actual vehicle. And this needs to shrink to 800 millimeters. Cool. All right. I should not have any more of these. I'm going to start just sticking more of these tanks in here. If you look at a picture of how the actual Apollo service module is laid out, it is not that far away from what I'm doing with this. These would be more cylindrical, but this is fairly okay for what I'm doing with it. This one, I'm gonna remove all of the tanks. Just tell you what, let's stick this on top so it doesn't cover up the thing, and we're gonna use just more fuel. And the same deal is gonna go for, if I can convince you to attach somewhere here. Remove all tanks. Just hello. Fine. There. It is now filled with Aerosine, helium, and MON1. I am also going to stick on some RCS blocks. I'm not really picky about that at the moment. These are not my final RCS blocks. I used this, and I am going to fill up one more with fuel for the RCS, if I am allowed to. Which apparently I am not. Screw it. We'll just fill it up with frickin' nitrogen tetroxide, maybe like 75 liters of this stuff, because I don't know the proper mix and I don't care to find it. And we'll fill up the rest with, if I can find it, Aerosine. I feel I'm carrying more fuel than I can actually store on the other vehicle, so I'm pretty sure I'm just going to end up with too much, and I'm okay with that. There. So with this configuration, let's just make sure that let's make these fit. In the thing, there we go. And that feels pretty good to me. So this is just going to be enough stuff for us to refuel the vehicle on the other end and take it home. Actually, I completely forgot to bring food and water, which feel important. So we're going to put another tank there and fill that up with food. Stick this back on, grab, Remove all tanks and fill it with Kerbalism. There you go. That is probably plenty. So now that we have this, I am thinking again that we can do this. Attach another docking port to the bottom of it, and then put engines like around the sides here. I might need to stick this out actually. Now that I'm thinking about it, we could use cleverness for that. Basically with the intention of making this able to connect on both sides to both of the vehicles that we have. And with that in mind, we are going to need some fairly beefy RCS thrusters. Probably not the biggest size, but like... I wish I remembered which ones we actually used. That would be kind of interesting to compare it to. But I would like some sort of flat RCS blocks. These are very large. Maybe these? Don't like the 45 degree. Hang on. These are 275. This is this good? I like this. All right. I would like the center of mass, and as usual, I'm going to position 4 of these right about here. Another 4 of them eyeballing about the same distance below it. Basically hoping to thrust them evenly around that. And this is fine. Let's just set this to Aerozine, maximum tech level, and do the same thing over here. Cool. And this is kind of looking like a payload. We then also need some sort of engine. And now we have a very specific requirement that it uses Aerozine and Mon for fuel. Which is a bit unfortunate because that does really constrain what we are allowed to do. We could also attach our own fuel system to it. That is the other option. And that might just be a better option now that I'm thinking about it. So, I don't want to use a cryogenic fuel, but maybe like this. Oh, let's look at the SPS again. I'm going to be a crazy person. I'm going to say this has a specific impulse of 314. I would like to beat that if I can. I know the SPS was actually an awfully good engine. This feels fairly good though. Helium, Mon 3, MMH. Alright, if I fit these, sort of like so, or maybe a little bit closer, we can do that. Needs high pressure tanks. I can live with that. I can make that work. What I can now do is, am I allowed to pressurize these? There. And then I'm going to make it fairly large and rather long. Maybe not quite this long, maybe 1.5 meters. And this looks kind of dumb. I'm trying to kind of even this out. Yeah, that's fine. So now this is the end that's going to stick on to dock, and this is going to have fuel for the Laros 4. And that gives us a delta V of no. Okay, that is troublesome. Alright, we're going to need more fuel down here. That is fine. I don't know how big this is exactly. It appears to be a little bit under 4. That is fine. We're going to make this about that sized. We'll have to fix our RCS thrusters. I'm just saying that so I remember. Jesus Christ, not so much for your sakes. And now this becomes SM4. And that. Now that I'm thinking about it, do I need to also set these to be SM4? This was Aerozine and Mon. Crap. Probably should set that because that is a better tank now that I'm looking at it. So give me a second. Fill with AJ10. This is fuel and oxygen, so I need life support back. Now, you know what? These are fine. This one I will do again. All right. The SM4 tank just has a little bit more fuel per tank, so I wanted that, but I'm not going to be so picky about it that I redo the life support, because honestly, we don't need even as much life support as I'm already carrying. This feels about right. Double checking this. Good. All right. This is going to provide us with fuel to get there. This is about 1.3 meters per second. The TWR is really pathetic. 4-hour burn time. Hang on. Fuck. I didn't realize this engine was quite that small. I need to rethink this again. Shit. Hang on. Please hold. If I was bothering to edit these, I would actually put up a please hold, but you will have to pretend that it was there. How are these? Hang on. If I get rid of you, how do we feel about this? That provides a burn time of 10 minutes. I am fairly comfortable with that. Can I do better? This is the Transtar. This has a thrust of 27 kilonewtons. No wonder it feels pathetic. See, the thing is that I have to be fairly specific because I am. What the fuck? Okay, let's use this. This terrifies me, but let's use this. If you're wondering why I'm freaking out, this has fueled by hydrazine, which is known to be extremely toxic and give people cancer pretty much on contact. And liquid fluorine, which is somehow the least safe partner in a mix with hydrazine. Liquid fluorine. Yeah, that's interesting. The kind of stuff that will set metal on fire. And test engineers. Cool, let's use it. I'm gonna stick it like here, and we're gonna try to push it in a little. Actually, no. We need this to be long enough that we can actually dock despite the engine bells, which means that we actually need the diameter to be very slightly smaller. If I had bothered to install Infernal Robotics, which I probably should have, I could have put like a piston on here to extend the docking port like on an arm, so I don't have to mess with this. But it is what it is. Fill for the G1, fill for the G1, and now we have a burn time of 6 minutes and 1700 meters per second because this one actually has a lot of delta V. What does this do, by the way? 357 and 53, 368, and it makes it longer. Okay, you know what? I can live with that. G1A, G1A. Longer. Alright, this is a pretty stupid looking vehicle, I'm going to be honest. I'm not the happiest about it. But it is what it is. I'm just gonna stick some of these on here for funsies, reaction wheels. This is Realism Overhaul. These basically don't do shit, but they do give you a very small amount of control without needing to burn fuel. How heavy is this thing now? Jesus fucking Christ. I am going to need such a large launch vehicle for this piece of shit. Oh, and here's the ones that I actually used. Great. Eek. No. Maybe those are too big. Maybe these. I'm gonna use this. I'm gonna fix their configuration to be good. And we're gonna put those up here as well. Alright, so this is ridiculously large. I am definitely doing the thing where I overbuild and make a vehicle that's crazy capable of doing anything I want. You know what? It's sandbox mode. We can do that shit. So the challenge is going to be building a launch vehicle to put this somewhere. That is going to be a fun challenge. I just have a procedural decoupler. Thanks. I would like it to be fairly large, but not quite that large. And yes. that sounds good to me. I'm going to name this something beside. I'm going to title this Untitled Lunar Refueler. Brilliant. Don't really know why I'm naming it something different, but I am. And we're going to live with that. Now, I have the decoupler, so it is time for us to stick the SHLV stack underneath this thing and see what damage looks like. Please do not put that in symmetry, I beg you. Alright. What do we got? Broken staging is what we got. Because I know for a fact this... Oh, wait, this is cumulative. This is... Okay, I was going to say I know for a fact the upper stage does not have 15,000 meters a second of delta V by itself. Maybe this is actually the thing behaving itself correctly. This is also no longer the correct interstage ring, because this is now not going to carry passengers on top, it is going to carry a payload. So I need a fairing. I just need a regular ass procedural fairing. Would help if I spelled it correctly. No. Is this the correct one? Yes. Don't know what size this is. Is this the 8-meter guy? Yeah. Alright. And we're just gonna... Yeah, that looks good. Just glue this on. We're gonna move these down slightly, because we did have the problem before where it needs to be attached to this. And look at me, I'm remembering. This needs to be smaller as well, like so. Alright. And we're gonna scroll this whole thing up so it's no longer under the ground and it does not explode the moment that I try to launch it, because that was a stupid problem to begin with. Do we need to keep going? We need to keep going. I'm really glad that I figured out how to do this thing where we put this outside of the vehicle assembly building, or rather we remove the vehicle assembly building entirely. It feels a little bit strange, but God, it makes my life better. Good. Alright, looking at the delta V numbers, it's actually surprisingly okay. Which makes me worried, because I feel like this is actually heavier than the Apollo stack we launched before, but whatever. So I know I made some mistakes here with stuff like this. I'm going to increase the controllable mass to 1,200 tons. On that, this is correct. This is fine. This procedural fairing, it would be kind of nice if I could click through this and make it just a little bit taller. Not going to be super picky about it. And that looks good. These thrusters should probably be able to work. I know I said I would consider removing these. I probably could get rid of them, but whatever. It's gonna be okay. I will live. And there's all of this. Just double checking all of the things, because I know there were some things that I didn't get correct last time. Procedural avionics. Can I do something with this? I should also change the upper stage to be deep space, maybe. That might be intelligent. How much does this need to carry? Slightly more than it's got. Yeah, I knew this was something I needed to check. Let's make this... Sure. That's fine. And let us also look at... Oh, let's put this back on before I forget. Let's make sure that the one for this Nerva is a deep space avionics unit. 90% sure I didn't do that last time. That might cause issues. I didn't need to do that. Not entirely certain, but don't really care that much. Alright. So, next step, check our staging. From the top, what the fuck does that do? Hang on, I'm gonna get rid of this fairing for the moment. This feels like there's a decoupler there. This also feels like there is fuel. in this that is not filled. Tell you what, since this isn't... Oh, Simbe node. Oh, you can actually control the layout of the stuff in here. That would have been cool to know. I'm going to change this, however, to be filled for the G1, which actually reduced my delta V, so I should not have done that. We will just remove that. I could actually do this properly. Hang on. God damn it. I hate myself for caring about this. It's not this big a deal, but I would like to remove the hydrazine tank and the fluorine tank, because that reduced our delta V, because this is not pressurized enough to handle that connection, I'm assuming. We have plenty of fuel for the RCS. I'm not really worried about most of this stuff. So I'm just going to fill it with fuel for the SPS. AJ10. And yes, that reduces our delta V still, but at least now we're carrying fuel that's actually useful. Anyway, if this is going to be a decoupler, I don't want a decoupler on this thing, so I would like to turn off staging if I am allowed to. I might not be allowed to. Okay, note to self, do not use this stage. Nifty. Anyway, we turn on the RCS and this stage at the same time. That is good. We decouple this and this and this. We are back to having too many decouplers. I'm actually going to fix it this time. So I remember complaining about this before, and we actually ended up with, I don't know if you noticed, but we ended up with a probe core somewhere in space in Earth orbit that's literally just this procedural avionics and this fairing base from all the decouplers. So I'm not going to fuck with it. I actually don't think I need this middle decoupler. Oh well. Then if we stick these back on, where are these fairings? These are here. I would like this to be its own stage. Now I think about it, because I would like to open those in when we get into space. So okay, engines, RCS, decouple from this. This engine, these RCS are going to be in the same stage. Which one is the other one? Why are there so many RCS here? The world may never know. Where the fuck is... Okay, this. I swear to God I didn't see that. These go here. Actually, technically these should go here. I don't know what these other RCS blocks are. That kind of concerns me. These go like those, so these go in this stage. Kind of annoying that I have to figure that out. I don't know. I used to fly with all RCS blocks on. I don't know why I'm not doing that now. It feels like I should. Actually, yeah, it feels like I should. I cannot think of a valid reason why I shouldn't, so I'm going to turn on all the RCS when I separate the fairings. Cool. So we got the Nerva, got this to ullage the Nerva. We got... What the hell are you? Are you this? Oh. Are you this, but you are too small for me to see it? No. Where the fuck? You are these. I see. So you go here. We are going to have to remember these engines require ullage, much more so than the other engines that we've been using, because liquid fluoride, I guess, so we are going to have to remember to use that correctly. Anyway, this, now we have this stage down here to separate the nerve, I assume, so these separation motors, decouple that, decouple this. We're going to stop decoupling this. This, decouple that, decouple this. Good. Then down here, these are going to be the J2s. Good. And this should probably be in a stage before the J2s. And I think this is going to go during the launch of the J2, but I'm not certain. We can move those, though. All right, before the J2, we fire this separator. I don't remember which of these decouplers we need, so we are going to live with it. Ah, I see. I remember why. So then this decoupler is not necessary. Because this, if I could click it just to confirm, if I can find it, this decoupler is the holding the entire lower stack down through the power of Kerbal Space Program. All right, so these motors, these retrograde thrusters, that decoupler, this fairing separates. Probably doesn't need to, but it does. Yeah. Then down here, these are the boosters. I'm pretty confident about these. This separates these are the tanks. These are the tanks. These remove the tanks. This removes the SRBs. This separates the SRBs. Launch that. Okay, perfect. Now our thrust to rate ratios need a little bit of work. We are a little touch low. And I kind of would like more delta V on the launch stage. I hate myself so much. I knew that was going to happen, and I let myself get my hope up that it wouldn't. Let me think. Don't really want to design an entirely new launch stage. So what I really want to do is enlarge these. And then I'm going to have to either replace these boosters or add more boosters, which would be the Kerbal way. Don't actually know what the thrust is on these. Control? Am I not allowed to configure the thrust on these? Huh. Okay. Did not know that. I thought there'd be a thrust limiter on that, so I guess not. So that means I didn't use a thrust limiter, which means I cannot just raise the thrust on that to pick it up. We're going to make this tank significantly larger. And that will considerably increase how much time we can spend launching. This will give us more fuel so we can put the second stage higher up. So the fact that this stage, which is 7, the fact that it's a little bit low on TWR doesn't matter. Again, stealing from the Apollo program. I would also kind of like to fix this delta V, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Because really, the fact that matters there is that it's high delta V, and we want this stage to get it in a situation where that thrust rate ratio doesn't matter. Now that we have done this, our thrust to weight ratio here is rather low. So now we need to fix that naturally. Keep going here as if it's going to help me, but I have too much faith. Yeah, no. I really need to figure out how to fix that because it would be tremendously helpful to just get a list of all solid rocket boosters. Solid rocket boosters provide you with more thrust, and what I currently need is thrust. What is this? 1208. What the hell is a 1208, actually? That guy. Alright, so that gives us 7,000 kilonewtons. We could replace that with one of these bigger ones. Like, this guy is huge. It would give us quite a lot of thrust, because these can lift the stack on their own and give us a minute and 45 seconds of just flight, which would be nifty. It would also be somewhat overkill. I do believe that overkill is underrated, but let's let's not go to that extent of it. What I am going to do is say Gem 63s. I'm just fucking about right now. Obviously, this is not a real way that humans in the real world would design things. That does have a thrust to weight ratio of 1. Sorry. Stage 12 is the one that matters. This thing is smarter than I am. So stage 12 has, this gives us 0.02. So 63s are too small. Or at least they don't provide enough thrust. Erg. Because the problem is that, like, there's nothing in between the 63 and buttfuck massive ones. Because, like, this thing, I would like to point out, this is the biggest rocket ever tested. Look at the size of this motherfucker. Yeah, the idea of that was to send things to the moon, and with just that, that would be the one that picks it up. So, I would like something that is... I guess my best option is just gonna end up being either spamming Gem 63s or using 1204s, these guys. If I use 1204s, I can have a thrust to weight ratio of 1.09, which is still really slow, actually. Hang on. Hang on. This is stupid, but what if I just... See what I'm getting at here? What if I just stack these guys? Because I know this, like, works. I know the separation of 1 works. I know that 2 will give it even more thrust. I know that's kind of stupid, but just bear with me. This gives us 1.13, and this way I don't have to worry about staging because those 2 will burn out at the same time. Okay, you may say this is incredibly stupid. If you are saying this is incredibly stupid, I would argue that you are entirely correct. Yeah, that's all I've got. Let's make these a little bit taller, maybe. Can I change the shape? Ugh, I should not have fucked with that. Oh well. I feel like these should be sharp. But now I need to fix it. This bottom needs to be 7 meters. I want these to be sharp because these are now going to go through supersonic flight. And sharp things are better for that. Or at least they used to be better. I don't really remember how Ferrum Aerospace tracks it, but I would also like to do a little bit of tomfoolery with this. I basically want this decoupler to push it outwards. And I need to fix the separation motor I'm seeing, because this looks incredibly stupid. I forgot the button for that. There we go. This works for me. I think this is pretty good. By that I mean this is completely insane. But I think it's the type of completely insane that'll work. Because it does actually have thrust to weight ratios that are in the realm of workable. Because this stage will only be under 1 for a little bit, and it's already going to be fairly high up. We just need to remember to go very steep. And as long as I don't make the same mistake that I made before, where I end up, docking over and over again and going all over the place trying to get a lunar encounter like last time, because that was kind of horrible, I think this will be fine. Actually, I think the cone was a mistake now thinking about it, but I'm not going to fix it. I no longer care. It does not matter that much. This needs to be a deep space one. It needs to be deep space so that I can control it in deep space. 500 tons is way more than I actually need. I'm okay with that. I just need it to actually be controllable in deep space, like say the moon. Yeah, you can see avionics utilization 4%. I just don't care. It weighs 200 kilograms on a stage that has a dry mass of 25,000. It's not important enough to me. All right, this is gonna be good. Last thing we're gonna do: set all attachment to rigid and auto strut everything to the grandparent. And now, isn't that way better than clicking on all of these and clicking these buttons? And also, grandparent part is kind of better than root part because the grandparent doesn't change and the root does. Which can invoke the Kraken, destroyer of all ships. Alright, this is gonna be good. We're gonna go out. We're gonna do the normal thing. Wait for it. Wait for it. Continue waiting for it. I'm going to try to launch this once and sort of write down notes on what I need to fix, because that is kind of the time that I have in mind. So we are going to basically attempt that. And yes, I'm still getting data from the moon, which is kind of nice. And we're going to get a nighttime launch. We're going to get a nighttime launch off. Look how much more expensive this is. Only 30K, but it weighs 200 tons more. I think it's going to be controllable. I hope it's going to be controllable. Anyway, it should be fine. It'll just go straight up. What the fuck am I even saying? So if we want to be cool, we could run this launch with KOS, actually. I don't usually script much in Kerbal Space Program. I think it's kind of, well, cheating to do it all, even though KOS is the least cheaty way to do it. But I think that it is kind of useful, and I am a programmer, so I am obligated to have it, obviously. So I don't remember exactly what this is, so we might have to revert this. I think this is pitch, yaw, roll. I said I think. And here, I'm going to ignite it at 5 seconds, which is now. 2, 1. And we don't have avionics. Of course, because I forgot to check it. We're going to see if that's okay. But I think it is. Basically, I'm going to just use KOS to fly this thing for me a little bit, as opposed to the SAS. To 85. I'm going to do that when we hit 150 meters per second. If I was being a smart coder, I would just say when vertical speed is 105 meters per second, lock steering to heading, whatever. Did I say 105? I meant 150. Alright. It appears that the first one is yaw. Good to know. So it's yaw, pitch, roll. Got it. Just checking our fuel tanks. Feels to me like these aren't actually draining for some reason. Where are we burning RP1 from? Our mass is getting lower. Oh, there it is. Okay. Yeah, these are going to separate first again. I feel like I've screwed that up before. Now we can lock steering to prograde. And it does this. Where the fuck? Oh, it's going for orbital prograde. Shit. Emergency situation. Setting SAS prograde here instead of using KOS. And that means I forgot to separate these, but that is fine. We're gonna see if this launch still works. Like I said, we are trying to learn things and stuff. The reason I wanted to use KOS was to both have more precise control of my pitch and to be able to kind of push the yaw over a little bit this way to fix the inclination. Jesus Christ. Set that as target. I don't know if I edited this correctly so it's not as fucking loud there, but it is fucking loud. Turn off heats just so I can fix this. Is there a body? No, where is rendezvous? Rendezvous, relative inclination is going up, but it's not actually that bad. Alright, so I actually screwed up and it should have been pointing this way a little bit. I'm just going to do this manually, kind of use the D button to tab this over and just a bit. We can see how much the gimbal losses are, but I'm okay with this. Within half a degree is fantastic. And now we can just wait and breathe. So now if you are paying attention to the last launch, I paid attention to a number of different settings. This time I am paying attention to time until burnout here and time to apoapsis here. If things start getting low, I'm going to leave this open, but I'm not going to use it immediately, actually. If things start getting too far apart, I'm going to press the button because I know the next stage needs a little bit of help. I would like to get, since this burns for about 5 minutes, but we are going very far up at the moment. You know what, actually, here. And I have realized the fairings need to go. Where the fuck are the fairings? These. So we are now in space, so those fairings can go, except for the part where it explodes. We have learned that needs to happen in space, with the engines off. That is fine. Hang on. Let me fix the staging. Tell you what, that went really well. I actually didn't expect to have so few problems. I will give it one more launch attempt. Just because I like you, the viewer. So this is going to happen like here. Right? We separate the stage. Then we separate the fairing and enable RCS. We ullage this. Then we fire this. Basically, what happened was I think we were providing too much force and these collided back. I would also like to take these and just make the ejection power kind of nuts. The ejection torque a little higher. Pedal hinge? Cool, I can have that. That would have been so nice before. That basically is what makes it... I'll show you a picture sometime if you're interested. The way the actual Apollo missions extracted the lander is really awesome, basically. Oh, and I was editing the wrong one. Hang on. That's this. You know what? This can have pedal hinge on it. We'll see if it works. What I need to edit, though, is this procedural fairing. This needs to eject with the power of the gods and quite a lot of torque. Yeah, it looks like it's actually like it's big enough, right? So I'm not gonna worry about it too much. I could give it a little bit of extra radius like this just to make sure that it has room. But I feel like if it runs into anything, it's going to be these RCS blocks. So maybe I should actually move the RCS blocks down. And there we go. We can lower the torque now. Uh-huh. Ah, you can set the shape here. You can see all the different shapes this affords. That's a really goofy shape in my opinion. Shout outs to the Soviet Union. Proton, Soyuz, conic, egg. Kind of like cone egg. But cone... This kind of feels the most realistic. Like this is kind of the shape that a real quote-unquote rocket would take. We could change the look of it too. I don't really have a look in mind at the moment, but I kind of don't like the original one, so... Again, one of the things I like about Realism Overhaul is just all the textures that you get with these procedural things. You can really customize shit if you care more than I do. Alright, that makes me happy. Enough. Caveat. This goes here. This. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And I also am going to fix my avionics issue. What? What? What the fuck? Why do you think I'm holding down Alt? Thank you, game. For the record, I have never claimed that this game is bug-free. You can change this to carry 15,000 tons. Just so we have plenty of avionics, because if we... Just double checking now, avionics utilization 16%, but like, if I turn it down, we know this is not enough and it claims 13%, so screw you. Alright, there. This is going to be the new version of the lunar refueler. Save. I don't remember if the time is correct, so we're going to have to go back, make sure we have the launch window. And this is going to be the actual last flight for this episode. If it succeeds... So if it gets to orbit with enough fuel to execute a maneuver to put it on the moon with the Nerva, I'm going to call that a success. We have 30 seconds to launch. Holy shit. I'm going to call that a success. Quick save it there, and we're going to go. If we don't meet those criteria, I'm going to revert to the VAB and call that the end of the episode with a reminder of what we need to fix next time. Basically because reverting to the vehicle assembly building is disabled when I quit the game. And I would rather revert to the VAB than dealing with launching an entirely new one. KOS, once again, lock steering to heading 90, 90, 0. Eck. Here, thrust to the maximum. First window is in a few seconds. I'm going to press that to throttle up. 3, 2, 1. Not sure that was perfect, but it was good. And look, we're actually steering off the pad this time because we have control. Look at us go. All right. I seriously don't know if I fixed that for the video, but holy shit, it is so loud in map view. I also don't know if the engine lighting is working properly. We probably won't see it too much here, but we should have seen it down at the pad. I don't know. If it didn't look too cool, that's fine. But now I would like to see... turn off landing for now. Relative inclination is good, so I'm going to lock steering to heading 85. Once again, that happens at 150 meters per second. And now I am going to prep a command to unlock steering. I'm going to set that off when this goes a little bit below the peak, because I was fairly happy about our ascent path last time. So I'm going to keep trying to go up a little bit more. And I need to start watching this fuel just to make sure. Oh, it's when I'm hovering this window, it doesn't actually update this. That's right. KOS completely takes control of your everything, so you have to click out of it. And that's why I was really confused by where my engines were getting fuel from, because I was allowed to see them, but not actually get the updates. A very interesting little quirk of how KOS operates. Okay, so with that update, we can wait and see. Once these go off, I'm gonna do this. So that, disconnect these. They are clear of the vehicle, so I'm gonna unlock steering, SAS prograde. There is a way to do like lock steering to surface : forward or something like that. There's some syntax. I just don't know it off the top of my head, so I'm not gonna try to remember it mid-flight. Here, I think we usually separate these when the thrust goes below 200 kilonewtons. Last time I was fucking with KOS and I just totally missed it, so... 3, 2... For the record, I could also do that in KOS. There is a way to check the thrust and separate it on time. But now we are away on our extremely high, like extremely steep ascent path. This is not very efficient, but again, I am somewhat worried about thrust-to-rate ratio, probably excessively. I am also checking our inclination. We were getting a bit high, so I'm just gonna try to figure out which way to get that lower a little bit, like that. That's good. This time, since there's no Kerbals on board, I'm not even gonna roleplay throttling down for the proper course. Especially not... Is this middle engine running? I legitimately cannot tell. I hope so, but it doesn't... It kind of doesn't look like it from here, right? But I have no idea when I... That's the right engine. It claims to be running. Cool. And we have transitioned over to orbital speed automatically. Thank you, Kerbal Space Program. I am gonna prep. What's our current angle? There's some... We're on a heading of 91, so lock, steering, heading 91, 0, 0. Just in case I want to go horizontal. Again, there's an actual way to do that. There's like lock steering to surface, horizontal, forward, or some crap like that. Or you can do a dot product between, you know, sideways and forward, or however the fuck you do that properly. I'm not fucking with this. I don't want to do math in my Kerbal Space Program. And tell you what, for the last few seconds of this flight, let's actually do this. So that won't increase the apoapsis as much, but it will give us sideways velocity. This is very inefficient. This means I went too steep. It's gonna be okay. We're gonna be fine. Just prepping unlock steering for later, but we are now on a course to go up. We can separate this. You can see how ineffective that separation motor was. That is somewhat concerning. Did I fuck this up again? We'll have to find out. And now these separate without us exploding. And I can press the I am in space button. Alright, unlock steering. I'm going to set SAS to prograde. You can see we very slowly are like moving. It's easier to see here, mostly because I added some reaction wheels. You can probably see the electrical charge being used for those. We're at like 200 milliwatts. If I turn this off, we're at 93. So we are at, well, I totally got my units wrong. So we're using a lot of wattage on trying to get where we're going. And right about now is probably a good time to start using our engines. So this is very concerning to me that this is like acting like it's still here. Tell you what, I'm gonna cheat very slightly and just accelerate. Yeah, this is attached. Okay, this is probably gonna be a failure, but I want to see how it goes. Script. Yeah, see, we're still attached to this thing. I don't know why. And yeah, it seems our engines have failed. There we go. What the heck? Okay. Okay, so that obviously has screwed up our launch entirely. I'm going to obviously revert this flight and figure out what the hell went wrong with the other stage. Obviously a major malfunction. Probably need to re-enable the other decoupler. I think without the other one, maybe we got caught. Yeah, you can see this piece of shit is still attached. What is the good of that decoupler? Okay, whatever. So that appears to be the problem at hand. We are going to see sort of what is going wrong here. I just want to see if there's any other problems, so I'm going to complete the launch, go back, re-enable that decoupler, and we're going to say next episode we're going to fly, hopefully with the knowledge that everything works. And that being the case, I'm not going to try hard this too much. That said, I will start doing shit like this. See, one reason I like KOS is you saw me doing a lot of this stuff from like trying to point the nose upward a little bit and just faffing with the SAS. This actually locks my roll to be sort of level with the horizon where I want it, 0 degrees, and it lets me precisely say how far up I want to be. I kind of like those instructions better than just straight up trying to do it by hand. I'll do it by hand when I'm like landing or something like that, but for this ascent, when I'm trying to be precise, I would prefer to be precise. Let's do 92 and 20 when this gets a little bit lower, like so. Again, pretending to be a real launch and practicing fixing the inclination. You'll notice I'm doing a lot better this time. I'm not entirely sure why. Probably part of it was getting the launch window better. And part of it is definitely that I am actively controlling our yaw a little bit with KOS. Again, another reason this is nice. Alright, we're doing time acceleration. I could definitely do this better in the future. It is what it is. Oh, I could definitely do this better in the future. Jesus Christ. Yeah, we're gonna hit re-entry here in a moment. Our vertical velocity is probably pretty nuts. Vertical speed is actually going up now. But yeah, now that we're here, come on. Yeah, we could do this and ascend. I don't know why I'm doing it like this. Just pretend. Signal lost. Cool. This is why we use KOS, because I am still sort of... KOS is still controlling it, even though we're not currently in contact with any ground station. So we're over the ocean, and there's no relay available. But you can see, okay, we get to space. I can still order it to cut off. And we have... Here in stage 3, we have 2,000 meters per second. Again, just sort of eyeballing what I'm doing here. No, shut the fuck up. Add maneuver. Psi. Warp here. You can use more time warp than that. I promise. It'll be fine. Alright, this is good enough. Add maneuver. Close. Stop giving me Kerbal constructs. I swear to God, I have never wanted that in my life. I barely even know what it does. It lets us manage stuff on the ground. I don't know why I would want to do that at the moment. Actually, I do, but we are in Kerbin. Stop it. Like, the maneuver node editing is a little bit wonky, especially with mods like this, because that menu should not open when I'm trying to press this. But go the see, like, the problem is when I click this menu, it also dismisses the maneuver node, so I cannot properly use the maneuver node. This is why this editor is good. For the record. There, then... You know what, I'm not going to fiddle with this properly. We're going to cheat, so this is not a real launch. Maneuver planner. This lets us... shut the fuck up, go away. Kerbal construct is pissing me off a lot. Transfer to target. Yeah. So that requires 2,700 meters per second. Is this the correct burn? Yeah. Yeah. Create nodes. There you go. Okay, so this requires about 3,000 meters per second. If I didn't fuck up the launch, the second stage, I think that would be fine. So I can go a little bit more sideways, and if I don't fuck up the second stage, I think we're good. We're going to revert to the VAB. Just for the fun of it, I will fix the staging thing now, because I'm 90% sure I know the fix, but I'm not going to test fly it. This is going to be the end of the episode once it is fixed. I'm going to apply 2 fixes. I'm going to remind the game I'm not pressing Alt. I'm going to re-enable this decoupler, because for some reason that decoupler is needed. I'm going to make sure it's at the same stage as this. I don't know why this decoupler sucks up there, but it's fine. I am also going to update this so that it has 2 nodes, with the intention that this actually separates. Hello, like so. Essentially, so that the fairings can get away even if we have the issue happen again. And I'm also therefore going to have to move these up a little tiny bit, which I don't think will have a big impact on the vehicle. So this, just like I want to make clearance for these fairings to shoot off sideways. So that should be good. And I think that was the only real problem we had with this launch. I could do other things, right? Like we did see, oh, the fuel might be a little tight on here. I could theoretically add like, I could go in here and start sticking on some, hello, can I, okay, real cool. Let's do this. Apparently I need to do that already. I could have, whatever. Let's just remove the fairing for a second. I could theoretically go here and like start sticking extra fuel tanks with decouplers here to add a little bit more fuel. You know, do some little uh, glue these guys here with decouplers on them so that and little rockets so they fuel the Nerva and then pop off. That would be pretty cool. I might consider doing that if such a thing is actually necessary. I feel like it's not. And if you think about it, this carries 700 kiloliters of fuel. This one carries 500 liters. It's not going to make a big difference, right? And I cannot fit, like, if I start doing this, I can't fit that much fuel here. I can do a lot of this. That's just about the limit. That's 18 times, let's just, times 600 liters. Like, I can't make that big of a difference using tricks like that. I could stick boosters up here. Again, I think it's fine. It would be a little bit better here. I could start sticking stuff to this decoupler, like fix the fairing and replace the decoupler with a fuel tank. Because we know that that decoupler is useless, that would be an efficient use of my time, or rather my mass. Again, I think it's okay. I don't think we need to fuck with this sort of stuff. So we are going to save this, and in the next episode, we are going to fly this vehicle with some new fixes so that hopefully I don't see the same explosion that I did last time. So we are going to leave. We are going to quick save again for paranoia reasons when it loads. I'm not going to quick save as quick save number one. This is just going to be quick save. This is just going to be quick save. Thank you. Yes. All right. And that will be the end of the episode. Thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. If you want to, like, comment, and subscribe, or shoot me in the head for saying those things. See ya.